the King of Kings.
Welcome to another episode of the King's Couch. I'm your host, and this is my co-host, Mimi. She just turned 19 on Elvis's birthday. So say hi, Mimi.
Hey, Mimi.
And with me is a very special guest, someone I haven't talked to or even seen in many years. I think we've had a few brief conversations on social media and commented back and forth, but that's about it. This is Gina Cavalier, and she is a filmmaker, book author, illustrator, speaker, spiritual seeker, screenwriter, and founder and the host of the Liberated Healer podcast. It's a wellness brand that calls various health and healing resources and content to share with those committed to the well-being of their mind, body, and soul so they can live their best life.
Yes.
She is also a media veteran, former entertainment studio executive, and technology enthusiast. Her star-studded resume includes her contributions to over 300 titles and worldwide products such as Harry Potter, The Fantastic Beasts, and Where to Find Them. And she also worked in the music industry, and that's how we know each other. So a lot of the guests I have on the show are people that I know, or I find myself and want to know. The motto on this show has always been everyone has a story to tell. So virtually I can pretty much have anyone on this show. But I love hearing other people's perspectives, especially people I haven't touched base with in such a long time. And we go back probably 20 years at this point.
Yep.
I
remember exactly.
Yeah, if I can recollect that far back.
I remember I was just going through a divorce with my ex-husband, Dave King from Flogging Molly. I remember that. And
that's right. Yeah.
you and I kind of connected a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm pretty sure that was the longest intro for any guest I've had out of almost 30 episodes that I've done. She had to script that out for me because there's no way I was going to remember that.
I didn't think you were going to read the whole thing, but thank you.
But no, it was so good. I mean, you have such a elaborate career. You're a jack of all trades. Your brain thinks like mine. You host a podcast show. I host a podcast show. You're into health and wellness now, just like I am. So we'll get into all of that here in a little bit. But first and foremost, let's go back to the beginning, like I always like to do on the show. I want to go back to your early roots, where you're from, what your earliest influences are, and what led you on this path in life to where you're at now.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for having me. It's so nice to see you. And I love your energy. You're an extrovert. You're a supporter of many people. You always were. So the fact that you're doing this is, something that would have been obvious to me now that you have the ability to do this. So I think it's a great fit. And I'm sure just like you with my podcast, even through stories, you get some kind of healing or you intellectualize how the world works. And it also builds community. And I just think it's so important that we help each other in any way possible and using our tools. And I really love that you're doing that. So thank you.
Thank you.
I grew up in Arizona and I've been on my own since I was 14. And I just always had a hustle, how to make my way through life and wanted a better life for myself at all turns. And, I had an abusive childhood and I really didn't think I was worthy of lots of things. I didn't think I was worthy of love. And so I would overcompensate and I would give all of my energy and love to other people. And I didn't really have self-love. When I came to LA, I was 17. One of the first group of people I started to meet with and hang out with was Billy Idol and his crowd and that whole thing. They were all older than me. They're in their 30s and I was 17.
I'm sorry, did you say Billy Idol?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually got to meet him. Really interesting story, but go ahead.
Oh, so that was sort of my you know, he knew I didn't have any friends here. He knew I just moved here, and I kind of was a part of that crew. Kind of luckily, because it kind of had my back, not being new in LA, but also, you know, a lot of, it probably wasn't the healthiest lifestyle, but that's how I kind of got into the music scene and meeting, a lot of musicians. And, you know, what all I've ever really wanted though, and still even want to this day, is you know, a beautiful family life with beautiful friends that, you know, we all like take care of each other. I always wanted this community. And that wasn't really the best for that. There's a lot of debauchery, and move on. You know, because I'm such a hard, dedicated worker. I remember Billy would tell me, he would laugh at me because we'd party all night and then I'd have to get up. I worked at Disney. I was only like 19 at the time. And he was like, "You're the only girl I know that has a full-time job." And I was like, well, yeah, I want to do something with my life. I want to be somebody. So fast forward a little bit, had a radio show that I created and produced. And that's where I met Dave King. We were talking about Dave, and kind of the circle where I met you, associated with, you know, the punk rock scene. And we knew each other for years. When we finally both become single, we met, we instantly fell in love, we got married. And I really thought that that was going to be my person forever. And being a caretaker, I just jumped into anything that his career needed. I put all my career in the background, you know, writing, being an illustrator. I just thought I saw him as the talent in our family and that he was going to make the money. So I gave him all my love and attention. And I really neglected myself. I stopped loving myself. I had a big fear of abandonment, and that he was going to leave. He was on tour all the time. So him being gone, got to a point where he's gone like 10 months out of the year. That abandonment issue was such a core wound. I was not living a happy life. I really was not living a happy life. And I was in the entertainment business, and I just didn't feel fulfilled. I was always outgoing, and nobody would have ever thought of this, but I became really suicidal. I had a lot of suicidal ideation. I just felt separate from the world. I thought I didn't belong anywhere. And I kind of kept it at bay until, you know, we actually had the divorce. And I remember when he was leaving and walking out the door, he said something to me that, this is 20 years ago, that I really have not understood until like this week. He said to me, "I'm doing this for you. I'm leaving you for you." And I was like, "What are you talking about? You're breaking my heart right now." And he said, "No, I'm leaving you for you." And now that I've kind of fast forward through this journey, I understand what he meant, because I could not have grown spiritually and in my business and in my practice and what I'm doing if I was still in that relationship. I would not have become this person today. And that lifestyle that he's surrounded in, which is fun, but with us together, I wouldn't have flourished. I wouldn't have. So I had to go through these hard things. I had to get sick of being suicidal. I had to finally fight for myself. I had to learn how to love myself. I had to learn how to put myself first. I went through all of that journey, and now I'm like, now I understand, and I am really grateful, because I think he loved me that much to let me go, because he knew that I had something bigger to do.
Right.
I believe that we're all connected in many ways, that, you know, even when they're not in your life anymore, that they're still contributing to, you know, your success and love and light. And, you know, so
That's exactly why you're here.
yeah.
I feel you.
Thanks, Dave.
Well, you know, I'm a Flogging Molly fan myself, and I have friends that know different band members. I met Matt Hensley, my former business partner at the recording studio I used to own. He grew up with this guitar player's name, Dennis. Is that right? Yeah. Dennis's wife, I want to say. Yeah, that's the connection there. Anyways, I always thought Dave, the singer, came off charming and like a very positive person. So that's reassuring. I mean, I know breakups are hard to do. I went through the hardest one of my life just recently, a couple years ago. So I can definitely, you know, show you empathy and sympathize with how you feel because, I had to spend, a good almost 2 years living by myself to find myself again, and we have to work together. I have to see her every day at work. And I wanted to show her unconditional love because, it's not her fault, that she doesn't love herself. And
Mm.
I don't want to get too personal. I don't know if her family or she watches any of these episodes, but I still love her very much, and that I love blossomed. And she said something to me when we broke up. She's, "Oh, I'm doing this for you." It's very similar. And
Wow.
uh, unfortunately, I don't love you like that anymore. And you need to make certain changes in your life, and so do I. And how can I love someone else when I don't love myself? And it was at first like that overreaction of emotions flooding in me, and you're not fighting for this relationship, just how I felt like when she said that and broke it down to me. It made so much sense in the world, and I was so thankful. And we had a bumpy ride to getting to where we're at now. And she was kind enough to leave me these two beautiful animals that you just met earlier, my cat and my dog. She started off with a cat, and then, as her daughter got a little older, started traveling more because it's his daughter's dog. She left Mimi with me, but she didn't want me to be alone. And, she only moved a couple miles away, and it's interfered a lot with my dating life after because a lot of women can't handle, a man being friends with their ex, but I don't have that kind of desire to be with her. I know as much as I'm attracted to her still, I know as much as I still have feelings deep inside for her that they're purely platonic at this point and they have to remain that way. We second guess things. We hooked up a couple times getting back together, but the long and short of it is, all that matters now is where we're at, and we're headed in very positive directions. Um, and a lot of ups and downs. I lost my studio. I got depressed. You know, uh, she had her issues. I had mine. And I learned so much for that. She used to always say this to me: "I'm just grooming you for the next." And I think almost once a week, sometimes daily. Yeah, I was like, you're right, because I beat myself up for a long time, and went through a mourning process where I lived in not regret, but just resentment of like my behavior, the things I wish I could have done differently, and I got too comfortable and too spoiled, all trying to mask how I feel. The hell, I mean, I'm very much like her. I wear my heart in a sleeve. I always think of others' feelings and put them in front of mine sometimes first. Everyone, is different, but it's her general compassion for others, her swagger and her attitude. In fact, she was a rock star in the hair industry and knew so many people I knew. I mean, it's such a small world. Even the guy I bought the studio from, his wife was her student in hair school. So it just goes to show you, you never know, like, or any connection is a good connection because you never know where that may lead. And a lot of that is portrayed in my solo debut I released on April Fool's Day of last year. I recorded the song right before COVID hit as a way for me to mourn the loss of my studio. And in the back of my mind, knowing that my relationship was failing. And I knew I was fucked. I knew there
Mm.
was nothing I could do to salvage that.
Oh man, it's painful too. But
And I
if
remember seeing that pain that you were going through when you came down to San Diego. It was like, God, how many? It probably '06. Yeah, it was '06 because I was working with that band from the Angels,
yep,
the band that coulda, shoulda, woulda. And, I mean, that singer just didn't want to listen to you, didn't want to listen to anyone. He wanted to do things his way. I was warned to watch out for him. And,
yep,
I mean, I don't hold any grudges or hard feelings. I mean, the band imploded, and the deal I had for them at Virgin, even after you tried to help them out, went to shit because they overproduced their album. And I financed that whole album, took a loan from my mother, which is a
Wow.
big leap because she believed so much in what their sound too, you
Mhm.
know. And she saw that, hey, you know what? These guys could blow up and who knows where this could take you in your career. That's how supportive she was. And
But
still
it,
to this day. And now I work for my mom
yeah.
in
And then for
healthcare.
me, I see that as, just another opportunity to say, oh, maybe next time I'll put that money and energy into my own art and talent. You know what
I
I mean?
did.
That's what I learned through the work trying to help those people. You know, I didn't love myself. I didn't put myself first. I would, again, I would try to get deals for everybody that didn't really because I had these core wounds that I needed to fix in me. And so,
Mm,
and once you do that, and that's my message to a lot of people because the suicidal ideation is a big thing across the country, and it's an actual epidemic. It's 11 people a minute. I mean, 11 people, yeah, 11 people, person will die every 11 minutes, in the country. And it's sad to see someone exiting this life. And a lot of times we leave when we have those major breakups, like you
yeah.
and I are talking about. Spiritually, we have contracts with these people that are what we consider our soulmates. And then when they break that contract with us, there is just this overwhelming gaping hole in our heart, and we want to leave. And how do people transform that and put that into gonna stay for another day so you can get to the next lesson, so you can get to the next day, so you can experience the things that you want to experience in life. So my message is that I've been really working on is how to overcome the suicidal ideation, and that's what my book is about, that's coming out in June, that I wrote with a trauma informed therapist. She handles she talks about trauma and myths and red flags and a lot of the therapeutic side of things. And then I talk about my story, but also how I healed it spiritually, because that's why I love musicians so much and people on your show. Even, Rick Thorne, he's a BMX guy, all these people, they're they're connected to spirit for the most part. I know that there's some people that are atheists, but a lot of these people they're doing all this work. Writing songs to me is very spiritual, connecting to source, and it's like a co-creation, and it's a beautiful expression, and it's part of self-love. When you really love yourself, you do your own art. You take the time away to draw or to um, work out or meditate or whatever makes if the people that love you want you to feel good.
You got to find what is a good way for you to decompress and let out whatever feelings they have trapped inside of you. Because, you know, last thing you want to turn into is I always use a exploding teapot analogy. Like you're just gonna overwhelm yourself and just let it all out and lash out. And as nice as the guy as I am, like, we've all had our moments where we just fucking lose it. Nobody's perfect. I watch all these influencers on YouTube and social media and whatnot, and all these happy-go-lucky pictures. And after watching Social Dilemma, thank God that documentary came out. It just showed you how candy coated everything is.
Yeah.
And behind closed doors, you know, are these people really that happy? Like, what's really going on? Some people open up. Don't get me wrong. There's some people that get real raw and real, and those are the people I like to follow and respect. But I follow everybody that intrigues me because everyone has a story to tell. I can only emphasize that so much.
Yeah.
And you and I, like, we have a very like spiritual connection. I felt that, when we got to get out of the bullshit scene that we were in, you know, with all the million distractions, and really got to get each other, know each other one on one. And
Yeah.
then I'll never forget, like, you know, that weekend you came down to San Diego and you had the contract ready, you were ready to sign that band, and you know, shit went south, and they were acting like a bunch of little crybabies, and you know, just shit didn't work out the way I wanted to, and just that was just one of the many things I learned from those days, you know, with that band. And you know, I like I said, I don't hold anything against them. You know, we all make mistakes. I overwhelmed myself too, thinking I could run two clubs and manage artists at the same time all by myself. You know, but I wanted it all back in those days. You know, I still hold the record of being the youngest talent buyer and booking agent for any respectable sized club in San Diego.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's promoters younger than me, but you know, these people came and went, and there's, you know, few lifers in this industry left in San Diego. And I'm very proud of the opportunities that presented myself. And I'm so happy that, you know, I met all these amazing people like yourself. And every day I'm reminded of how fortunate I am and how short life is, because my mentor's ashes are sitting on my you know, countertop, bar top, in between my kitchen, which you can't see right now. It's just kind of like my spiritual section of my house, like my little shrine or whatever. I have all my gemstones and, you know, in memoriam stuff for certain people. And, you know, I'll never forget the conversation I had with him. Diabetes is what took him down at age 49, about 3 weeks after his birthday. And a year before he died, he uh he did two things. He left me a funny voicemail, which I saved on my phone,
Good thing.
and you can hear the clip of that, him talking, that gave me the name for my solo project, Sulo and Solo, at the end of my music video. And eventually when I put the record together, that'll be the intro to it. He's like, you know, authentic sellout's cool, but I want to hear Sulo and Solo, and it's just hilarious. But he told me, he's like, you know, I should have listened to you, your mother's business partner, you know, we've both been in healthcare and are very, you know, prominent figures in integrative medicine and, you know, holistic world. And he finally saw the light when, you know, the diabetes took his vision. And he was just telling me that. And he always masked his feelings with jokes and humor and partying and whatnot. And he's like, you know, when diabetes took my vision, that's when I knew it was, that I was on borrowed time, and, you know, it's too late for me to finally start taking care of myself. And he thought maybe if he was lucky, he'd have 4 good years left. And he didn't last more than maybe a year and a half. And I never, to this day, you know, I still think about that, and I think about him daily, not just because his ashes are here, but because of all the lessons that he's taught me. And I portray all that in the music video. I even have my friend that's a really amazing actor, musician, producer, writer, named Jimmy Provasilis, fly out from Brooklyn, partially because I wanted him to pop his directing cherry and direct my music video, because only he could capture the vision I was striving for. No one, including myself, can come up with a concept to properly portray what I was talking about, because it's the song is so interpretive, and my songwriting partner Chris Arms is, I love working with the guy. In fact, you know, he inspired me to take my next song that we're doing out to Memphis and record it at Sun Studio, which has been a dream of mine. I'm
Yeah.
really thankful to work with that guy. And he, when I was telling him, you know, when we're in my rehearsal space, that I started renting after I closed my studio, he took my lyrics and, you know, when you're writing, you kind of just scratch off some stuff and shit always changes. And he's like, what's this song about? And I was all, it's about not just feeling jaded, and not even jaded working in the music industry, but just kind of doing self-reflection on yourself. Because I do that like every 10 years, ironically. Some event like a recession or COVID or it happens, and I have to kind of just soul search and find myself and start over in an entirely new career. And I did that when I was 20s, getting my foot wet and working at Kane's Bar and Grill, working my way up to running a club, and then opening up a studio at the tail end of the recession, and then closing that studio, and then 5 months later going into COVID. And then the 10-year marker for my buddy's anniversary of his passing was last year, and I knew that was coming up, so I wanted to you know make sure that the video came out at appropriate time to kind of honor that. I never really publicly said that, because I wanted you to visually be entertained, but at the same time, I didn't want to do a lyric video. I wanted you to pay attention and enunciate the words appropriately. So going back to that conversation with my songwriting partner, uh, he's like, I want you to really put into words how you feel about this person and the lessons that he taught you. And the song is, like the best way I can really take his New York East Coast swagger. I mean, he was the only sound engineer that made fun of the bands, and the bands all loved him for it.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked like Fred Flintstone and talked like Rodney Dangerfield. He was absolutely hilarious. And I was just talking to him with the owner of Brick by Brick, my old boss, uh, night before last about that. And we're working on a song together now. And I want him to, he's a amazing musician. He's from Guadalajara, and he taught me like a real, strong like value of respect. And, just I spent more time with him in my 20s than I did with my own family, and he used to introduce me even as his son. In fact, people would be like, "Oh, is this your son?" And just kind of naturally assume it's like we had that kind of chemistry together, and we didn't even look alike. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fun. I love
Yeah,
that when I go with my friends and they're like, "Are you
yeah.
sisters?" Like, yes.
You feel me? But I I'm really like, touched by what you're doing and the work that you're up to these days. And I've always really looked up to you because you had fast tracked your career. If I would have moved to LA, I sometimes wonder like if I could have been even more successful than I was. I mean, I at such a young age was, get invited to the Roxy by Nick Adler and be like, the waitress being snotty with me is like, oh, these are shots from our boss. Like, who the fuck's this kid? Walking in here looking like he's
I
12
actually
years old.
I actually think you're extremely successful. You have great friends. You have been able to keep your empathy. You're grounded. You're always trying new things. Life is about healing and experiences, and you're doing all that. You're very welcoming. You bring people into your tribe. You hardly. I don't. You don't. You have enough ego to keep you working and going, but I feel like it's in check. And that's an amazing thing. Building a tribe is not easy to do, and it's not something everybody has a skill in, and you really have a skill in that. And that is you've done so many bringing people like I'm looking to a lot of these people that maybe you might have been the only person that let them into your crowd, or let them into your circle. People are so, you might have done so many wonderful things to people that you don't even know how that and that's why my message is like, so that's why I'm so driven. It's like, let's lay down our keyboards and our swords and stop stabbing each other because we don't exactly say the same message. We don't believe in the same things. We just are repeatedly, virtually, socially stabbing each other. We have to go back to the love. We have to start opening up our circle. We have to start showing support. And you're very much like that. And some people don't even realize that they are that closed off, that they aren't opening up, that they aren't welcoming people in.
That reminds me of something, what you're saying right now. One
Yeah.
of the most beautiful things someone interpreted to somebody else about my character and who I am back in my heyday and probably the mid to late 2000s. She came up and I used to get frustrated because, I know you can't be friends with everybody, but, this business is so industry, this entertainment industry, so toxic. And
Sure.
it's a rat race and who's cooler than who. It's a pissing contest, whatever. But someone got pissed because I'm like, I come out, I greet, everybody, I say hi, might as well kiss babies and act like a fucking politician because I pretty much was, and it was called that early on. And I stood up and stood my ground. In fact, I stood up to Dave Mustaine at age 20. Dave Mustaine wearing a suit trying to sell me a telemarketing pyramid scam, mind you, in a
Yep.
written office here in San Diego. But my buddy Rex was doing his cinematography work, and Rex set me up last second. He's like, Dave wants to talk to you. And I was like, what? He's like, I told him all about you and how you're like this prodigy child. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I understand you want to be a promoter. And he's like, why? You're a musician. All promoters are crooked and snakes and sharks. And I was like, well, I want to make a difference. It's because of that attitude alone right there. I want to show people that entertainers can also entertain in a different fashion and want to make the industry better. And it blew his mind. I saw the look on his face and he was just like, you know what? Go out there and do exactly what you just said and prove me wrong. And go out there and make a difference. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
I was
You know,
working at King
reminded
at
me
that
of it.
time, and that's how I met, all these. That's how I met my mentor, got my foot in the door. But going back to like what I was saying about, feeling like a politician and shaking hands and trying to say hi to everybody, people get pissed if I had to cut them off. And, this girl stood up for me, that one of my friends, and she told that person, she's like, you don't get Sulo, do you? She's like, he is obligated to say hi to everybody. And
Yeah.
that shit is exhausting. And if he's not mentally stimulated by what you have to say, he's going to say some witty shit, walk away, and go start talking to somebody else. And if you want to get offended by that, that's your problem. He's like the nicest guy in the world. He means well. He busts his ass to throw these shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would start drinking because of the stress in
Yeah.
that business, and I fell into those traps. I had to walk, spiritually. During the end of my tenure at Brick by Brick, something was, my mom lived in La Jolla, and I had to move back with her, so broke. Something would lead me to the La Jolla Shores, like something cosmic. Said, go there and just walk and soul search and let it all out. I want you to scream into the stars. And I would go to the most remote place on that strand, and it looked like a stage, and you can only get there when the tide is low.
Yeah.
And I would let it all out, and I would just like lose my freaking mind. In fact, I remember one night I was walking on the ledge, on the boardwalk, and all of a sudden I hear this voice behind me. I was like, oh shit. And there's a lot of tweakers and weird people out that night.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as like Santa Monica or some shit, but um, he's like, you're on a spiritual path yourself, huh? And I was like, yeah. And it was a recovering addict that, that found Christ. And it was an interesting conversation because as a spiritualist, I don't believe that there's one certain type of God. We don't know what God is. Nobody truly does. And if you want to call Jesus Christ the Son of God, or you want to call, Buddha or whatever spiritual head figure that you look up to, your version of God, go for it. I believe in energy, and that, we should question everything, and that as long as it's positive and you're out there trying to spread that positivity, go for it. But the one thing I don't like about organized religion is it's no better than, the way the government operates. It creates greed, power, and control. If you look at the Crusade Wars, let's take the Vikings, for example, my fellow Nords. I'm half Finnish. There's not much history on the Vikings in Finland, but they were around. And paganism is an interesting, form of, a religion or a spirituality, and you could say that pagans were pretty brutal and marauders or whatever you want about it, but after watching the show Vikings and starting to do some research, I really started to understand that they were just trying to be like the Native Americans. They were just trying to be like anyone that felt threatened by the white man.
Well, yeah,
Slavery, whatever, it's all relative in that sense, and I don't know what my point is really. Going off on a little side tangent, but I guess my point really is that I'm very fortunate to have the yin and yang, relationship. My father teaching me rock and roll and not how to go down a dark path in a bottle, like he did most of his life. And I never judged him for it. I had to kick my father out of my 26th birthday, which hurt. And I never held it against him. We all have our demons that we're trying to run away from. He found his father, dead at 8 years old. He was locked in the bathroom, but my grandmother made him go be like, "Oh, your dad's been in there a long time. Go check on him," type thing. And that was horrifying. And that's probably haunted him his whole life, for all I really know. And we've talked a little bit about it, but it's hard for him to really open up in that sense. But my mother, she's got her own PTSD too from the ex-Vietnam vet that she was married to before my father that would have Nam flashbacks, and got abusive with her. And then my father was, a little verbally abusive at the same time. But regardless of, they watch this or not, and if they want to get sensitive about it, and it's all truth, and we can't ignore history, and we can't ignore the truth that we've been through. All we can do is start over. Tomorrow's a new day to make things right. Every day that we're above ground and that we're healthy and alive is a time for us to thrive. And
well, part of the documentary that I'm doing about suicidal ideation, that we're going to be filming while I go on a college tour to talk to, adults about suicidal thoughts, is about, as we have become more modern, we have gotten more suicidal, and it's a fact. Back when you're talking about in the Viking days, it's our nature as humans, or even plants, anything that has life to it. The one goal is to stay alive.
yeah,
So
we all have defense mechanisms. That's right.
And so where and why are we now deciding to check out? We're deciding that is something that is happening in the last chunk of, I'm looking, when I do the documentary, I'll have the real numbers, but in the last, 30 years, that really, like at the level of where we did it now, we're doing it now. Back then, if your life was terrible, you were a slave, you were a captured soldier, you had a really bad illness, that's when people did commit suicide. Very rarely did they commit suicide over the things that we're doing, this sort of things that we're doing it now, which is debt, loss of a relationship, a job, or things like that. Where did that change? As we've gotten more modern, we've gotten less tribe, we've gotten less connected, and that's why these conversations are really important, because we have to go back to tribe. We have to support each other. We have to start opening up all these conversations and hearing each other's stories and hearing each other.
Yeah, I agree.
And so this is sort of like why I think it's really important, because the suicide is the people that are actually committed it, but 1.7 million people are having suicidal ideation. And when they have suicidal ideation, a lot of times they have it their entire life if they don't actually heal it. That's not any way to live.
No, it's not.
And when you, and anytime you have like a major thing happening, like you lose a job, then that person can go down for an entire year and be depressed. And and they're lost, and they're afraid to say anything to anybody, especially soldiers. They're so afraid to say anything. I think they said men are the number one suicidal. They're 50%, they're 80%, I'm sorry, 50% of the population, but 80% of suicides. So men are more at risk than women. Soldiers are incredibly at risk. They 50% of people actually committed suicide, saw their therapist a month before they died and didn't tell them they were suicidal. So people are not feeling like they can talk about their depression. They're not able to talk about where they are. They're afraid they're going to lose their career, their livelihood. And then they're trying to do this all on their own. And there's billions of dollars going in all over the world, especially in America. I'm looking at the numbers, billions of dollars into mental health resources. And when you call 988, a lot of times the reports I'm getting back is that they're not picking up, they're not calling back, and they're getting billions of dollars to do this. And so I'm not
It's
saying
corrupt. It's so fucking corrupt.
where's all the money going, and
Yeah.
it's not going to helping the person who's sad. It really isn't. So we need to uncover that. It's going to salaries, it's going to all kinds of other things, and we need that money.
Right.
Money will actually help these people that are suffering, maybe benefits or school classes or well-being situations. But it's just something we need to open up about. When you see people like Twitch on Ellen DeGeneres, when they look at him and he has a whole family and he has this big career, and then all of a sudden he's gone, it's terrifying. We don't know who's going to be gone tomorrow if we don't really start to
Look at Chris Cornell and look, then Chester. I mean,
no.
it's just it's insane. And my mother told me once, and I was 4 years into this industry, and I couldn't attend a friend's funeral. She was murdered in her home, and we were leaving to go on a 6-week trip to Finland. And actually, no, that was another death, but it was very eerie because it was deja vu. I found out in the same setting. I did go to her funeral. I'm sorry, but she told me she's just consoling me. My mother's so sweet,
Mhm.
I don't know did you get a chance to meet my mom?
I think
Yeah.
yeah.
She's like, in all my years of healthcare and my entire life, in the 4 years you've been working in this industry, you've lost more people between you and your sister, because my sister's heavily connected and like more of the hip hop industry. You guys have lost more people than I have in my lifetime in my
Yeah.
network of friends and family. And now reflecting on it, like there was this local sound engineer and musician. His name was Cole, but he went by Otto, and he went by Otto Valentine. I don't even know if his last name was real.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, his mother told me when I met her on Monday at his memorial show. He didn't wake up. He was only like 34, 35. Uh, Girlfriend found him, and no one knows what happened, and we fear it could have been OD. I don't want to say anything yet because the toxicology report's not in, but whole point I'm trying to get across is lifestyle catches up with you. And when I opened up my studio, it was a big awakening for me to start getting my ass in gear. So the first thing I did was a client, acquaintance of mine referred me to her friend from high school, opened up a small, personal training gym. And she's like, my friend's business partner would be a great fit for you guys, for you. And you should come in and try it out and see if you like it. He'll give you a complimentary session as a trial. And I did, and we did connect. And I trained with him for 4 years until I finally transitioned to just sticking with this gym called the Boxing Club. But that's what led me down a path of health and wellness. And I've been surrounded by it my entire life, but everything, has come full circle for me. And I always soul search now. In fact, I have my thinking throne, what I like to call it, um, on my patio. It's a throne chair it's an antique. It was probably in a dining room, but I got customized in gold and black, or gold trim and black, like I've always wanted. And I go out there and I think I let the cat come on my lap. I have tea, and I don't necessarily meditate. I just kind of think.
Mm.
I look like freaking
Your thinking throne.
Conan the Barbarian at the end of the film where he's like this, like just he's stereotypical. Yeah, go figure, me a king, you know. But it's just I lost so many people, and like losing this dude Otto. Yeah, we were more acquaintances than friends, but I used a friend term loosely because when someone shows you genuine respect for one another, and even if it's just someone you see when you're out in the mix, that's a friend to me, and I value, those relationships. Every time we saw each other, we caught up, and he always approached me most of the time first. He was very charming, had this swagger and style about him, and he was the most animated sound guy I've ever seen in my life. More than my mentor in certain areas. He was like a younger, different version of him.
I believe we
They knew each other too. That's the funny part, when he was first starting out. He used to kind of like crack jokes on him and he's like, who's this clown?
yeah.
But anyways,
I
see what
really believe that everybody is meant to be in your life, even if it's for a few minutes. I just see us as divine beings. It's not a religion. It is. But I believe that I studied in clairvoyant healing, and that's sort of what helped me. Is I see everything as energy. I see everyone as energy. I see their soul. Their soul has a vibration. Their soul has a sound. Their soul has a name that's not their name here. And when you start to see everybody as a soul, you start to not want to break them down as much. You want to support them. You just want to look at them. And even if it's somebody that you don't believe in their politics or what they're doing at all, you start to see it different. You start to see their journey as in just a beautiful expression that they're here to try to learn. I don't know, you can go into compassion a lot more when you can see how a person vibrates, and how important that every single person has the opportunity. They all make choices though, and sometimes they make terrible, awful choices, and they do awful things to people. They're going to have to all pay for that. I believe in karma. I believe in this circle of all that stuff, but I try to look at everything as like a glass of energy. And where do I want to put my energy in? Is it going to be in do I want to fill it up with good stuff, or do I want to fill it up with bad stuff? And we make hundreds of decisions a day. Am I going to comment on that post and jump in on this bashing on X? You know what I mean? And then what happens is you jump on, and everybody can probably understand that they felt this way too at sometimes. And maybe you might walk away and go, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been so harsh, and you start to think about it. Now you're walking away carrying that energy of and it is like an online bullying that's happening,
cyberbullying, yeah, I feel you.
I call it an online civil war, and
I call them keyboard warriors.
And keyboard warriors, I refuse to participate. But a lot of people, it's practice, because sometimes you get so worked up and you're like, are you kidding me? I can't believe you're going to support that. And the problem with that though is you actually, when you dip your toe into that river, you are taking on a part of the energy. Right. Even if you're doing the opposite of the conversation, you still are becoming a part of that energy. And if it's negative, it's negative.
Here's what I even noticed back in the brick days. They'd get real tough guy. I called them tough guy texters on MySpace back then. I noticed this for the first time. And then the next time I saw this person, they're kissing my ass to my face. I'm like, don't you realize we just like exchanged some words like last week? Like, what is wrong with this person? Like, I don't want to fucking talk to you right now, but I'm going to because I'm diplomatic. I
Yeah.
always walked into a situation diplomatic. I learned that from my mother. You know,
Oh,
and I talk about my mother a lot because I'm a mama's boy.
I know. It's
And
so
I'm not
adorable. I love
ashamed to
it.
admit that. And I laugh in people's faces. I was like, you want to know why I listen to her? Because she's always, for the most part, right. And she got to where she is because she believed in her dream. And
What's
she,
her first name?
Rowney,
Brownie.
yeah.
I want to send Rowney some energy and love right now. And I want to do this because I want people to see that you can easily send someone love
It's not that
at any
hard.
moment. At any moment. And what I do is I imagine that person. When you say their name 3 times, you say hello, and then you say Rowney, hello, Rowney, hello, Rowney, hello. And then that actually dings their soul. Like it says, hey, I'm trying to say hi to you. And we can just surround her in love and thank her for um the positive energy that she is giving so many people in the world. And it's just as simple as that. And what happens is just sending her that we're such vibrant beings. We can feel it. She can feel it.
Hmm.
Whether or not she even knows she can feel it, she'll start to get an upgrade energetically. And that's it. We can just send good.
She can feel it. She's super intuitive. She used to know how to find me at house parties when I was a teenager. Like she's got her spirit guides. In fact, she found my father's dog that I was watching that slipped out and I lost while I was trying to drive down to the church to give out all the toys for the Christmas toy drive.
But I
Oh,
just want to
that's
show
that.
that you can do that at any point. And I'm not even doing it just to people I love. People that I have conflicts with, I do the same thing with. And that's actually the challenge is because the people that you meet that you have a lot of instant like, I don't like that person. Why don't I like that person? That is the person that you probably need to have a conversation with.
I agree.
You might have karma with that person, and there's something there that you're actually mirroring inside of you. Like they remind you of something inside of you that you haven't healed yet. And so what you do is we run from them. But in reality is there might be something there that I think the best thing is if you met someone you didn't like in the beginning, and then you've actually was like, I got to figure this out. And then all of a sudden you're friends and you didn't like each other at all in the beginning. How cool is that? You got to work through an issue and come to a great conclusion. And that's just more, we need to do that a lot more, I think. Just
Right.
have a hard conversation. Why are people so afraid of conflict? They are so afraid of
It
conflict.
that's what scares me about our future
That
and
is,
these kids are being taught. I mean,
yeah.
like
They
they hide behind screens like I don't know where to start. Like a fight breaks out, they break out their cell phones instead of trying to break up the fight. It's just ghosting. I mean, it's so easy for us to like not deal with the issue at hand and find conflict resolution. Like I
yes.
told my friend the other day, he's like, you can't talk to people and your family members like that. And I was like, look, our values are family values and upbringing and culturally, he's Persian, I'm half Finnish, I'm a Euro mutt. It's very different. But I'm gonna tell you something, life isn't all rainbows and sunshine all the time. Shit's
No.
not always gonna go your way. And what happened with us went sideways because I got offended and whether I misinterpreted what he meant or whatever happened, he likes to run away from these problems and it's honestly I'm getting real sick of it because he acts like nothing happens like the next
Well,
day
it's not, the problem is it's
or he
not,
doesn't want to talk about it, you know what I mean? And I'm like, look, I want to talk about what just fucking happened and you want to like act like you have some memory issues, like, dementia or some shit. And, as a life coach, I'll tell you, like, a holistic integrative health coach, I took 2 courses that really changed my whole perspective on the human mind. Most of my songs are about human perception and how I perceive life, and I imagine how others. I've always put myself in someone else's shoes. So when I started as a neurotherapist originally, and a nutritionist, when I was just gaining traction and trying to carve out my niche at Pacific Pearl, my mom's clinic. And it was in fall of 2020 when shit was crazy. And I'm giving neurofeedback sessions to these people and they're spilling their guts out to me. I was like, I gotta be prepared, like would start actively listening and giving them more reflective statements back, letting them know that I was here for them. So I told my mom, I was like, I'm gonna search for a life coaching course that makes sense because I need to help these people. And I don't believe in traditional psychology approaches. It never worked for me as a kid. The one that did, uses more applied psychology approaches, realistic approaches. He put himself in my shoes,
Well,
said something I'll never forget. He's all, imagine me as your friend. And what you tell me will never leave this door. And he was so kind and he reminded me the way he talked of that movie AI. Remember that? The Stanley Kubrick's last film. When
oh
what
yeah,
was that actor? Now he just passed away like a year or two ago. John, not John Hurt. He was the scientist and a doctor in the beginning of the film, and he was talking to David at the end of the film, and that's how like that psychiatrist was or psychologist, sorry, was with me, and it made so much sense. And when I searched around, I found a form of psychology that this Scottish ex-military guy named Kane Ramsey formulated for himself because he had such severe PTSD and he felt the same way as I did, just in a different situation. And the first thing he taught, in these videos, I found them all on Udemy, right?
yeah.
Udemy is an amazing site if you really dig deep and look at the reviews and find something that resonates with you. And I've found so many radical courses. In fact, I have so many stacked up in my library. I haven't had time to go through all of them. But this one I would listen to when I want to go on road trips. I would watch the videos and cast them on my screen at home. And
Nice.
the first rule he taught me was like, in order to help someone else, you got to be able to help yourself first and foremost.
Yeah.
And that made the most sense to me in the world. And I paused it and I sat there and I listened to it. And then I was like, you know what? He's absolutely fucking right. Like, I started questioning myself and I was like, you know what? If I got to be like stable, I'm going through my own shit in life right now, and I'm an entertainer. I know how to flip that switch and forget about my problems, throw them out the door for that hour. I'm with somebody else because I like that kind of mental distraction. It's like listening to a good song that lets you take it
Yeah.
away.
What
And
about, you were talking about the millennials and you were worrying about them, but I wanted to bring up something about, you were talking about the brain, because I've had a lot of brain doctors on my show at the Liberated Healer podcast. Especially with marijuana, I don't mind when people take other stuff, but the way that they're cultivating marijuana right now, it used to be at 6% THC, now it's at 30 to 40. And it is actually, we're going to have in probably about 10, 15 years, a whole wave of people in their 50s that have dementia from marijuana.
yeah,
Yeah, really, like we're going to have to take care of them. It's actually
it's
killing. It's so bad. And what also happens is you lose empathy when you smoke too much marijuana. You
yeah,
absolutely lose empathy, and you could be the best person in the world. And this is exactly what the brain doctors say. There's a part of your brain that the empathy starts to fade away. So even if you're the nicest person in the world, you smoke that really high concentrated marijuana, that it wasn't intended to be grown like that in under the way that they're doing it now. It's so potent. I mean, we have that's a huge actually problem that nobody wants to talk about because nobody wants to be uncool or whatever. But I don't care if someone smokes pot. It's not what the act that they're doing, but it is actually so dangerous now, but it's so acceptable. It's literally, we're gonna need all these dementia facilities for people in their 50s.
and that's the scary thing. And that's what I noticed about my friend I was referencing earlier. And he was sitting there when we got into it, smoking out of a volcano because it's the safest way to smoke weed. And like, I don't know if his true colors came out or what happened, but it was just I love this son of a bitch so much, but it's like every day he'll ask me something and I'll be like, dude, I told you this yesterday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, don't you remember? Like, I bust his balls, and I don't know if he's so used to be pampered or whatever the fuck, but it's just like it kind of drives me a little crazy, and I'm passive
But
aggressive.
nobody
And
wants
I
to,
and I'm like a bullet in your face sometimes, and I get emotive,
but
and
nobody thinks it's gonna happen to them. Nobody really wants that. It's scary. It's scary.
yeah, it
If you
is,
start
it
to
is.
lose your memories, it's scary. So if you don't want that
But
to
let me
happen,
tell you, like when I was depressed in my breakup, weed was a huge factor of what helped heal me at the same time.
yeah. But that's
And
how
you got to be
little,
careful. You got to be
yes,
careful. I believe like my bass player is Bud Tender, and he's very smart. He's ex-military too. Like I've learned so much about cannabinoids and THC and CBD because he breaks everything down. He finds strains depending on how I feel emotionally, and
yeah.
I smoke them sparingly. I'm not a stoner. I'm not 17 years old anymore. I don't believe that marijuana is necessarily bad. I just think it needs to be controlled. And just like anything, it needs to be moderated and well balanced out. And we deal with a lot of cancer patients. So he's my go-to. I,
Yeah.
I called him so many times, and my, our patient care, our patient clientele is very high end,
Mhm.
so
But then once you
I have
heal
to
from,
be very cautious about like,
yeah,
I feel like Pawn Stars. I got a guy, I'll just call up this guy. But I got to be very cautious about like who I use in those situations. And, there's been a lot of studies. Yeah, I've read similar studies of what you're talking about. And it's it's a controversial subject, but no one really wants to talk about that. You're absolutely right.
and it's good if you're going through cancer and chemo and that helps your stomach because I've had
It
friends.
activates your appetite at the same
But
time.
once you're kind of better, you need to weigh out, because like I said, have you ever had like where you can't remember things and or say you have a really bad hangover and that stage where you're a little foggy, like what happened and things like that. That's sort of how dementia feels like, and it's scary. But imagine that it doesn't come back. The
Right.
hangover goes away, but the dementia just gets worse.
Well, that's what I love about what I do with neurotherapy.
Yeah, that's
Neurofeedback is a great system, that I use, but I got into vagus nerve stimulation about maybe a year and a half into my career as a, healthcare practitioner. My medical director, was contacted by a company called Nirvana Zen, and they designed a state-of-the-art device that also serves as a listening device. It's kind of like Sensate or binaural beats, but you don't have to listen to music to stimulate your vagus nerve. It's patented earbuds. In fact, I'll show you right now.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
should.
and next time I see you, I can give you a treatment and you can experience exactly what I'm talking about. Hold on one second. I have it in my room.
I love this stuff. Thank you, everybody, for joining us and listening to us today. And I'm just take this moment to say, come and see me on my YouTube channel, Gina at the Liberated Healer Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. I really need subscribers. We're really working our butt off to, try to get more people into the conversation. And I just took the opportunity while you were up.
And to follow up on what she just said, all her links to all her social media, websites, whatever, will be in her episode. And please follow Gina. Gina is an inspiration. She believed in me back then, still believes in me today. Uh, you know, we have always supported one another, in every aspect of our friendship. Started
Yeah.
off as a business, I think we met through, I don't even remember how we met.
Charlie Overby, I think, maybe.
Shout out to Charlie Overby. You're right. Yeah,
Charlie Overby.
I love Charlie. Charlie's living a life in New Mexico.
I
Yeah.
think I saw you with Lemmy too. When we were hanging out one day, we ran into Lemmy.
Oh, Lamb. I miss him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've known Lemmy for a really long time. And
I never got close with him. We used to just kind of chit chat because Lemmy, he's kind of soft spoken, and he had these eyes, and I could just tell when he wanted to be left alone. You know what I mean? So
He was funny because his original band, the guy left Motorhead to start Fastway, and Dave King was the singer in Fastway. So when Dave and I got divorced, he always had like a little with Dave because he took his guitar player. So he would just say, "That's that jerk. He's so stupid. He's so stupid to let you go." And like, so we would do. I was like, "Thank you, Lemmy." You know what I mean? So, but I
I used
remember.
to always see him kicking it at the Rainbow with his white boots and his little pose. And I one time I remember I walked in there. I'm boisterous, like people because I'm very inspired by John Lydon, aka Johnny Rotten.
Mhm.
That's how I came up with my logo, the band name, my swagger is a lot of it inspired by him. And I'm like a combination of Elvis and him. You know, like there's that in between because I'll tell you how it is. I'll tell you what you don't fucking want to hear. And I'll stand up for what is right. And, you know, I've done that many a time by making fun of these fucking rock stars. I used to call myself, what was it, the rock star killer or something like this. So no, the celebrity stomper. That's what I used to call myself because I had balls of steel. A lot of it was liquid courage driven back then, but
I love
um
Lemmy.
I
He used
went
to
up to Lemmy and I was all King of Kings is my favorite song. He's all, you know, that was just a song for the wrestler. I was like, I don't care what it is. My last name's King. I love that song. And then there was another time I went up to him and I was like, Lemmy, you don't have the high score in every game anymore. I got it on hoops on this cocktail game. He's all, I don't play hoops. And I was all, well, at least I beat you on something because I can't touch you on any of these other games. In fact, he died playing that damn cocktail game. Mike Magliari, you know, they brought it to his house, was right there watching him and turned his back for a second and he had slumped over like this. That was the
well,
story I was told, you know,
oh,
and you know what? Sometimes people do
yeah.
find out, you know, a few days, a week, you know, months before they die. But I knew something was off because I went up there in November and brought my cousin from Finland, who's a huge Motorhead fan. And I'm glad that he got to see Lemmy, but something was off. Everyone was like, this is late November. Everyone was surrounding around him. And then his birthday celebration was early that year. I follow patterns, and in his last interview, I'm not dying. Quit
Did you know
asking
that
me that.
Michael Magliari died too? Just in November.
Yeah, and I met Mario. I met Mike briefly. Mike was fairly young too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was 71, I think. And Mario actually was a great supporter of me when I when very early in the 80s, when I was with Billy and all them. He always took care of me. And then when I owned a modeling agency when I was 23, and he gave me the whole office above the whiskey. He gave it to
Wow.
me. That was
No
my
shit.
I had a modeling agency with models going
I
up
didn't
there.
even see. I didn't even know that. Like Gina, like
It
what
was
haven't
so
you done
funny
in this
because
industry?
it was crazy
Entertainment.
because I was only 23 and I'm doing all these, I have all these models from around the world, and they're doing the sound check at 4 and the models are coming up and then the musicians are coming out and I'm like, leave her alone. I'm like, I need her. Like, it was just like, oh gosh, it was just way too much chaos. It was just too much rock and roll. And I just remember I got invited to every single party from, all the studios. I would get, back then we would get faxes on by a Friday, or Thursday and Friday, I'd get faxes of all the parties in town. So I could bring my girls. And I was like, I was not into that. I was just, no, no, thank you. I'm not a pimp,
I hear you.
no, thank you. But Mario is like my papa, and he only charged me, I think, $500 a month's rent. And then I was like, Mario, I don't have money this month. And he's like, don't worry about it, Gina. It was so cute. He was like, you're like my little girl. So he was I loved Mario. I love that whole family. Actually,
I met his granddaughter.
Gina, Shosho, and Gina.
Yeah, Gina. Yeah, yeah. She was running the Rainbow out in Vegas. That's how I
I
met
used
her.
to babysit her.
Yeah. Oh no shit. So
Yeah.
one time she set up a dinner so I could meet Mario formally, and we sat. You know when you walk to the bathroom, there's that one middle table.
Uh-huh.
Well, I've got some funny stories about that middle table. So we sat there, right? And we're sitting there eating, and Gina's like, oh, this is Sulo, and he's like, Sulo. So what kind of name is that? And when everyone asks, they think automatically, probably because it's LA,
Yeah.
Hollywood, whatever, that it's some kind of stage name. And when I tell them the story of that, my name is, a Finnish name. I inherited it from my grandfather, passed away when my mother was young, and that it translates into grace and charm. And then my last name is King. They tripped the fuck out. Another funny quick story about that same damn table is no, not Tommy Pistol. He looks kind of like him. Not Frank Stallone. What's the other guy? The biker guy. Chuck Zito.
Oh yeah.
Chuck Zito. He's sitting there with his chick that looked like could have been his daughter for all I know, but it was his date that night. And I was wearing this Elvis shirt that has a big old picture of young Elvis, right? And I kept walking to the bathroom because I was drinking too much beer that night and I had to pee a lot. And then finally, she grabs my arm and stops me. She's like, hey, you look just like that guy in the shirt, right? And I was like, oh shit. I saw the look on his face. He's like, sit down, kid. I was like, oh shit. And then, I was like, hey, I got respect for you, brother, blah, 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 whatever. And she starts giving me the googly eyes. And I was like, oh, he's like, time for you to go. And it like that, I was like, oh my God. But the rainbow, let me tell you the connection that I have the rainbow that you probably don't even know
Hmm.
is Christy Schultz. You know her. She's been there for like 20 something
Oh,
years.
yeah.
The head bartender, their bar manager. Used to work at Brick by Brick a year and a half before I started there.
Oh wow.
Or she left to move up to LA.
Yeah.
And I got introduced to her and she took me under her wing. You know how many times she saved me from driving drunk and just like took care of me. And it's such a badass. I'll never forget like talking to Jerry Cantrell. She'd be like, hey, 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 easy, buddy. I heard what you want. I'm talking to my friend from San Diego. Can't you fucking see that? And I'm just sitting there like, I will build you a statue. Like, you are amazing. Like, you know, she taught me a lot of how and will give me pep talks on how I gotta like be to survive with these animals I'm surrounded by. You know what I mean? And
I love that.
I'm influenced by like my friends and my acquaintances and people that come into my life. I'm influenced by you. Like, I don't want to just, I don't like bragging. I don't like boasting. I'm a storyteller. That's what I'm doing right now. And I ramble too much. And that's an inside joke I have about how I became a singer. They're like, put the guitar down and pick this up. You have way too much to say. I know I talk a lot, but I just have a lot to say.
Yeah. Well, that's why you have a podcast.
But anyways, I'm rambling a lot in this. I want the people to really know who you are. And I know I have a show to get to here in a little bit. So let me check the time. Yeah, we're still good. But Gina, I want you to, plug whatever you want to plug, talk about what you want to talk about, and just, you're such an empowering, inspiring person, like I was saying, and it's so, I'm really excited because, I mean, one, I haven't seen, your face in so long, but two, we haven't spoken like this
Well,
other than, some texting back and forth or whatever on,
yeah.
social media. I mean, it's just, I want you to know I'm so proud of what you're doing and how you've used all what you've gone through and now I'm starting to feel a synergy like I can relate so much because I'm taking that pain too and I'm using it to help other people. I would take that to the stage in my music or shows or whatever. But now I finally have stability financially, benefits, a 401k, like paid time off, shit I've never had in my life.
And I
And
used to have all that stuff, and I don't have any of it now. So,
but
uh,
yeah, but you know what? You're living the dream and you're trying to help people. And you're
well,
just,
I'm
in
in
my
the
opinion,
flow.
another lead, leading by example.
Thank you.
And
I'm in the
that takes a lot
flow.
of courage.
I'm in the flow, and I've just come to the other side. And I never thought I would be a published. I've always wanted to be a published author, but I only had an eighth grade education,
You
so
wanted to
I
be sorry, a what?
a published author. I just
Okay.
always wanted to be a writer, and everybody told me I would never do it. And you know, when I did the book proposal, I got 4 offers. And then when I started doing my doodles and sending in artwork, and they're like, can you add in more? Can you add in more? I had 30 images in the book. And it's being published by the Swedenborg Foundation, and they're going to donate books to colleges and high schools to any kid who is suicidal for free. And that's the reason why I went that route with a nonprofit, because I don't want to be hawking the book and saying,
Right.
oh, you have $20 or whatever for the book.
Yeah. That's
No,
really cool though.
I
That's
want
cool.
it for anybody. And then they asked me to do the cover. So now I'm like, this is like a printout of the book, Surviving Suicidal Ideation. It's actually out on pre-sale on Amazon and Barnes and Noble right now. So it has 30 illustrations by me. I did the cover. I have the second book coming out, The Dark Side of the Rose, a handbook for the living.
Hmm.
And I have 2 publishers negotiating for that book right
Nice.
now.
Well, if you ever need an Audible recording, I got you on that.
Well, and then I'm doing a documentary where I'm looking for, I have a really great production team, but I am looking for a production house or financing. And that's all about suicide, the history of suicide, and then we're also going to talk about mass shootings, and were these people suicidal before they became homicidal, which the answer is probably yes, almost every time.
Interesting.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on there, and then just, try to raise money for the nonprofit Suicidal Ideation Anonymous. I'm hoping to get some grants. I might be able to get at least $1 million grant to start that. But I have to do a lot of jump through a lot of hoops to get that. But I just think we need to, go back to tribe, drop the judgments and the criticisms of other people. If you don't like what they wear, you don't like what they say, you don't know like what they're doing, just move on with your day. Try to stay, because you carry that, and then you wonder why you're sad or depressed or lonely. And then the other thing is self-love. Just find ways to self-love yourself. And if you don't, make a plan, talk to
Right.
people, find out. I didn't love myself when I met you. And I was,
I knew, you know what, I felt that, and
I was scared. I was afraid of being
you were
abandoned.
you were hurt, and you opened up. I remember that conversation when you were telling me about like everything that
Yeah,
night, and
I was
you just
depressed.
had this warm hug and embrace.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what I said exactly, but you know, I hope
I,
I hope that, like, I know in my heart that you felt that I was genuinely like trying to comfort you.
oh yeah. And there's so many good people along the way. And even people that weren't really able to be supportive. It's okay. When you go to where I'm at now, I'm really just all about love. I honestly, like, I've embraced forgiveness and levels.
Well, Gina, you've always been about love. That has never changed.
It's true. It's true. But
You are one of the most positive people I've met in this fucking industry.
yeah,
Like I know thousands of people. You know thousands of people. I honestly like don't really hang out with too many people because it's not that I don't trust them. I just don't want to be. I'm an empath. I'm
yeah,
very force sensitive to negativity. Like I can, I have my mother's intuition like that, that ability. And not saying I'm a psychic or some shit, but a lot of the times I can read someone. You know how many times people have asked me if I am. And in fact, some spiritualists in my mom's circle have circled around me and be like, you're borderline psychic. You don't even know it. I'm like, yeah, go fuck yourself.
well, that's what
I'm
was
just,
also
I
hard.
know I would never say that to somebody, but
But that was what was also hard for me with Dave, and being in front of, like, say 50,000 people, because um I wasn't in check with how to deal with my energy.
yeah,
And I'm an empath. And so when I was in around all those people and kind of around that energy, um I would get sick and tired, and I literally, like, I actually would feel like I'd look at the mirror and look green. I actually feel like I look younger now than I did 20 years ago.
I was gonna say you look pretty good.
I've learned how to put boundaries around my energy, and just kind of like I could do that now, but I didn't know I was getting energetically sick back then. I
You
didn't
know what?
know it.
I look at pictures of me back then. I look pale like a vampire, you know. I looked like someone out of the movie Near Dark or Lost Boys.
Yeah,
And, I saw the different, there's not too many photos of me because I was always behind the camera most of the time. So, photography is a passion of mine, but just like all the self-reflection, I just kind of look back and laugh with no regrets. I wish I didn't make certain decisions. I wish I never started smoking cigarettes. But now I got my health in order. Now I feel young at truly young at heart again. Just because you feel like it up here doesn't mean energetically you're gonna feel that way. People, they call me a vampire. They're like, you look the same as you did 20 years ago. And I am very drawn to like vampires for some weird reason. In fact, I know Gerard McMahon who wrote Cry Little Sister, theme song for one of my favorite movies of all time. But these are all people that I met because I tried to go out of my way, not to kiss their ass and cater to their needs, but to put on a show. And what I've realized it's all about human connection when you're dealing with any situation or anyone.
yeah. To bring on the good energy. I want people to make love again. I want people to hold each other's hands. I want people to look in each other's eyes. I want to build tribe. I want to put our arms around each other. I want to like let go of the bullshit. The political stuff is so boring. I'm sorry.
Why do they always have to bring in comments on everything? Political, cancel culture.
what? And it's
Like
like,
everyone gets offended by everything, and it creates
no,
division.
and for the most part, unless you're going to go work on the campaign, shut up.
Yeah, you're not a fucking
Like, I
politician.
mean, go work. If you're passionate about change, about that, your group, then go work on it. And that's where you put the energy because you're passionate about it. It's okay to be passionate about it. But
Yeah.
to yell in people's faces all day long because they slightly defer, that's what we're here for. You're only creating more chaos. We have to, it's not even going to change a lot. We just, now you're no longer making love. No, you're no longer kissing each other. Like they're saying people are hardly making love anymore. People don't want kids anymore. Like, you listen to Elon Musk or whatever, is like, there is a decline in our civilization. Nobody is having babies. Like, we need to get back in the bedroom. We need to start like making love. We need to be night. We need to hold our head up high when we're walking. You see everybody walk like this with their head down. Look upwards to the sky, see that beautiful bird, appreciate it. Like, let's all go. But it's like an energy. We need to go together. Like, just come on.
Well, they're being desensitized. A lot of this desensitization that's happening in social media, the shit we're watching, like people don't know how to interpret things. They just look at it like, that's like, what do they call it? The boob tube. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about how, you see everyone glued to their cell phone. I don't know if you've ever paid attention to our last album cover for Authentic Sellout. We put that album out and we wrote it in 2016 or 17, put it out in 2018. And it's Jimbo Phillips from Santa Cruz Skateboards did the artwork and nailed the concept even more than I could have envisioned it. It's a whirlwind of vortex sucking in all the bad, and it's somebody's head exploding like in typical Jimbo, the Phillips tradition. And his head exploding while he's staring into a cell phone, which is the cause of all these fucking problems to begin with. And
But
pardon my French, I curse a lot, but
no, but you know how many people are lonely?
and
Think
I don't
about
think you've dropped any swear words on this interview. That's probably
I
maybe the first.
I am not a big swear person. Like I even like I can't do it. I try. I used to say Christmas cookies instead of the F word. Like I don't know why.
You're so sweet,
Because
Gina.
it has energy. It honestly does. And it's like I get like, oh, but there's so many people in this world that are lonely. Can you imagine if we put down our phones a little bit and volunteered at a convalescent center for 1 day a week or 3 hours? They're saying kids are doing 9 hours, anywhere from 6 to 9 hours a day on the phone. And
Yeah.
that's just estimate. Can you imagine instead of that 9 hours that you just do 1 hour to read to an old person who's lonely, who hasn't had anybody come to visit because everybody's either died or they're too busy? Do you know how many people in convalescent hospitals don't visit people? How many old people don't get any guests? You could just go up and say, hey, I just want to volunteer. And is there anybody that needs any company for an hour? You know, you could do that. And you're going to walk away. When you pass away, you're going to know that when you look back on your life, like, hey, I gave up an hour here and there. It's not
Right.
like you have to be a saint. You don't have to be a saint, but we need to start thinking about ways that we can better help our community. We have to start with around us, where we live. You know, that's why this online political stuff is crazy, because it's like, it's giant and it's not going to be fixed by your one tweet that you're yelling at someone. If you can put that aside and take that hour and say, hey, is there any old person that needs some groceries? You know, we are better than what we are doing right now.
I
And
agree.
that's what I want. That's how I want to shake shit up. Like, we're better than this. We're so much better than this as humans, as a race, as a tribe. We got to go back to tribe. We got to open up the circle again. We got to let down judgments and criticisms.
But in order to get there, we need leaders. We need positive leaders that aren't self-absorbed and just trying to gain self-gain.
Thank God for podcasts. And I love YouTube. I love podcasts.
But look at all these.
People have a voice now.
They do, but it's so oversaturated. It's harder these days than ever to find them because they're looking up to all these false idols and gods and influencers and jackass pranksters. And I mean, it's just so much shit. Like, I hang out with my buddies' kids because I'm like the funkle to all of them. And I just like, they try to show me all these things, and some of them are funny and some of them are cool and witty, but some of them are just like, why do you watch this shit? Like,
They're getting
seriously.
tired of it. They're gonna get tired of it.
I hope so, because you know what?
I believe in people's soul, and I believe that their soul is tapping them on their shoulder, spirit, saying, you're better than, you know what, get off your ass. This is stupid. You know, I really do believe it. Like, our spirit wants us to grow. Our spirit wants us to do good things, and that's another reason why I don't really like marijuana, is it dulls the connection to the spirit and the self. It really does. So if you want to have intuition and be guided by your, have a clear intuition of what you should do for your career, who you should date, anything in your life, you're just dulling it. If you're living, you're dulling the intuition, and we dull our stomach. This is our guidance system.
But you know what, a lot of the problem is people keep it all here. Everything starts with the gut brain connection.
Mm-hmm.
And what got me through like every hard tragedy in my life wasn't just turning my parents. I mean, I did, but there's certain things that they wouldn't get or understand, including my father was like my best friend. And I talk to different people because we all perceive things so differently. And throughout every hard tragedy, as lonely as I felt in my life, my theme song for my love life is The Wanderer, because that's how I feel half the time. And knowing truly, just I feel like as a partner, like will let me be me. They don't get me, or they have a problem with me being too social, and there's trust issues or possessiveness or this or that, and then it makes me want to pull this beautiful hair out of my head. Like,
well, I think jealousy and all that stuff is actually an energy. And when you love yourself, you're not as jealous. If I was way jealous back in the day, and it was because where was the jealousy? What jealousy was a symptom of my fear of abandonment.
Well, it's still human. We all feel it.
I don't want to lose that thing. Right. But now, if I lose it, I'm okay, because it wasn't meant for me to have right now, or right. I'm not going to fight for something that wasn't. But that's a practice. When you're young and you're scared and you have trauma in the background, if you don't heal it, it's going to come back and kick you in the ass in in different forms. And yeah, you're gonna be jealous. Like, I don't want to lose my husband. I don't, this girl's hitting on him, and you're gonna go into jealousy. But if you're a strong female and you love yourself, or a male, you're gonna be like, you know what? They don't love me anymore. Let them do it.
Right.
There that, but that strength comes from work.
Right.
Like okay, because you're not going to be able to hold on to them anyways at the end of the day.
I agree.
And but realize that you had an experience, and that maybe you're growing away from them too. That was the whole beginning of the story with Dave. Is I couldn't imagine being in that situation every day with the alcohol and the drinking and every single day. No, I wouldn't have been able to do my art. I wouldn't have been able to think cognitively anymore. I probably would be 50 pounds overweight, honestly, because I was struggling with I never had a weight issue until it was all of a sudden drinking Guinness all the time. And I think it's fun. I'm not saying don't have some fun, but if you're doing that much and on a daily basis, like,
I remember you love your Guinness. Oh
yeah,
man.
I still love Guinness.
I
But I
remember that.
only do it on, certain time, like maybe once a week or something.
Yeah.
I don't want to not enjoy my life. I just need balance.
I feel you, Gina.
Do you think anybody's still listening to us?
Well, we're not live streaming, so
I'm just kidding. I'm just
no. Well, honestly, like people have the shortest attention spans ever right now. And I wrote this song called Technology, all based on a kid that was staring at his cell phone on Facebook or IG or whatever, right in front of me. I was like this. And it took him about 30 seconds to realize I was singing in his face. And he's like, oh my God. And he's like loving it. But if I got so fixated on monitoring, and I'm always observing my surrounding, and I noticed how many people were glued to their phones. Like everything social dilemma talked about, I resonated with completely. And even the creators of these apps and features on social media were becoming victims and slaves to their own creation. It's just like it goes back to like what I've always been a big James Cameron like fan, and I love his concept behind Terminator. He envisioned, and it's like he had a premonition of what could happen with AI and the way we're going, the rate we're going. And he's still like, I saw an interview with him during Comic-Con last year where he's talking about it. He's just like, we need to be real careful with their weapons of mass destruction, or it's going to end up like my franchise. The Judgment Day could be real. It's still we're getting even closer now than ever. And
think about all of the jobs that we're going to lose. The one thing they're like, oh, AI can't be creative, or AI, it doesn't have emotions and things like that. AI can pump out a script now, like better. Like if I was a screenwriter, I'd be losing my.
Oh, ChatGPT. I played around with it the first time last week.
Yeah.
Just to see. I was like, write a weight loss program in 30 seconds, less than that.
Artwork, and people are doing the artwork on it, and then they're just going in and cleaning it up, and then they're posting it, and they're making all this money. And it's like all of my artwork, like all of this is like, I just use a pen. This is a pen. You know what I mean? Like, not saying that there's some beauty in it, but there's not tactile. There's no real emotion in that. Like
the personal touch is diminishing day by day. I get exactly what you're saying.
I think there was a picture that went viral of some concert or something, and everybody had their phone up, and all you could just see was a row of screens. And so it was like a concert, and it's like nobody's experiencing the experience.
I know. And you know what? In our day, it was lighters, and now it's cell phones. And in fact, the older artists are even like, oh, put your phones in there because no one has a lighter anymore. It's just. It's a weird time that we're in.
That's why they need to put their phone down. So they need to start putting their arms around the people. They turn around and give them a kiss.
Well, these kids are getting lazier. I mean, look at this trend. They're wearing pajama pants and Crocs to school.
Really?
And their parents are letting them get away with it. La Jolla High is probably some of the biggest brats I've ever encountered in my life.
Oh my gosh.
In the
So
years that I've been working at my mom's center, because it's 2 blocks up the street from us, and I have to deal with these little brats a lot of the time, trying to cut through our center to go to 7-Eleven, or, just being rude, abusing women. Like this one girl was, poor girl was being ganged up by 4 guys, being called a whore and this and that, all these nasty names. And I was about to say something, and then I hear this door slam. Who the fuck are these guys? And it was the mom waiting to pick her up right around the corner. And they scatter like fucking cockroaches.
dude, I recently
I was
saved
horrified at how vicious these kids are these days. They're even more vicious than us. Back in our day, instead of like cyberbullying somebody, we handle that shit on the playground. You know what I mean? Now these kids are committing suicide because of cyberbullying.
Yeah, it's real. They
and,
really are.
and they don't know who to talk to anymore, or look at all the predators are luring them in. Like, I mean, we could sit here and have a conversation all night, but no one wants to listen to an 8-hour podcast.
No, I know. Okay.
In fact, let me check what time it is.
That's okay. You could probably cut it off when I just like ended it with all the.
I want you to end it, and then I'll go into. I always like everyone
Cut it up.
to give a positive affirmation or a motto they live their life by, or an inspirational message that the viewers, whoever's watching this, can take away. How did you get here? Type message. Or if you want to be like me, how do I go about by doing that? It's really up to the message that you want to send to everyone that does, view this, listen to this, and plug whatever you want to plug. And like I said, I'll remind everybody, all her links will be on the episode. So please support Gina, and go out and buy her book. And
you can pre-sale it now.
Yeah.
It won't be out till June, but it's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I just want people to remember, especially if they ever feel alone, that they really are not alone. That we are really, really all connected. And once you start to see how we are connected and how that tapestry works, it really does start to see that your life and that your soul is meant to be here, and how precious it is. And a lot of times the analogy I like to use is we're like a giant tapestry, and each one of us is a string. And as we come and go, and we flow together, we'll come and go, we have our differences, and one of us might get frazzled. We are all important. Every single one of us as that string in this giant tapestry of life is vital and important. Don't pass people by. Don't throw judgments on people. You're actually hurting them, but you're actually mirroring what's inside of you. You're hurting yourself. Let's let that go. We just less. We don't need it. If it's not gonna take us to a better place, just try to. And it's self-monitoring, and it's programmed. So you just have to go, do I really have to say that right now? And just, if you start to do that, all of a sudden you start to do it a lot less. And then all of a sudden you're not participating in this game of hurting each other. Just to be right, this righteousness, I'm right. And even if you are right, who cares? That is that important that you're right. What is truth? We always know that there's 5 sides to the truth or whatever. So just realize that, be nicer and kinder to everybody. You're never alone. We've got spirit guides, all your animals around you that have passed on. They never leave your side. If you believe in this stuff or not, but there is just energy supporting you to whatever your dream is. They want you to get there. You do have a life purpose. You do. I did. I found it through hard work and crying and laying on the floor, but I was determined. I was like, nope, there's going to be something better. And I'm happier in my 50s now than I've ever been in my entire life.
Wait, I'm sorry. You're in your 50s?
Yeah. And when I'm
younger than me.
I'm going to be 54 next week.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm just saying.
Actually, I don't think I ever caught your age the entire time I've known you.
Well,
wow.
you know me
I'm blown
20 years
away,
ago.
Gina. Like, wow. Like, what's
So
the secret of anti-aging? That's what I want to know.
it's all spiritual. I really believe it. And I all these people doing all the anti-aging stuff and the fillers and all that stuff. And I'm
What's that,
like,
Brian Johnson?
just actually
Taking 100 plus
give
pills
them
a
good
day.
energy and be a good person and do good things. And honestly, you can tell when you look at someone, not, yeah, they might look beautifully done up, but you, by their vibration, like that you vibrate healthy or not. And it, being spiritual and being a good person is actually the best de-ager in the whole world. Honestly, you don't need fillers and stuff and all this surgery and all this other stuff.
Kids that are 22, 24 years old getting all that stuff now. It's like, why?
Because they don't love themselves.
Sad.
And
Sad state of affairs, the time we're living in right now.
love
Not
your,
all of it. There's a lot of
find a
chaos in the
way.
world and a lot of
It
weird.
doesn't matter if you have a bunch of kids or if you have a husband or if you have a job. Find a way to love yourself first.
I think it's
Everybody,
identity crisis. People are in identity crisis.
everybody will benefit around you. Everybody will benefit if you love yourself. And you're like, I can't take an hour to meditate or go to a yoga class or whatever. You're only doing a disservice to every single person around you and yourself. So find that time for yourself, no matter what. And I
Wow.
never did that. I just was like, I gotta take care of all these people. I gotta have a great career. And I just went through it. And then I'd come home empty and sad and lonely and have suicidal thoughts. I don't belong here. I'm disconnected. I don't have a life purpose. Nothing I say matters. And then that starts to play around and there's programming and then and then it's sad and you're gone, you might be gone from this world.
Yeah.
So
I've watched a lot of people that never got to live up to their potential, never got the help they needed. Like, yeah, you have too. Like, it's, I don't know. Words can't express. Yeah, exactly.
well,
All
thank
we
you.
can do is send out the good vibes. You've been doing that this whole show. Right? I mean, I getting fired up and a little passive
I
aggressive.
get excited. This is like my third
My
interview.
form of excitement is just, all over the place. Like,
I actually love people, and I used to tell that I love people so much. People go, "You do," and I used to go, "Yeah, don't you?" No. How many
yeah,
times
I
I
met.
hear that is like ridiculous. My problem was I didn't love myself, but now I love myself and other people, so that's even better. But how when you say, "I really love people," and they say you do, and that's like, yeah, that's sad state of affairs. We need to change that.
Well, you're doing it. We need more people like you in the world with your mindset. And you are like
Right.
me. You like to use real life experience to help change other lives. So keep on going out and doing that, Gina. Doing what you're doing. Follow your dreams. We have so much catching up to do.
Yeah.
I
Until
can't
next,
wait to, give you a hug in the flesh and
yeah.
just fully sit down and just catch up for all that missed time that, life, we all go in different directions in life. We all have our different paths and, like things we got to figure out.
Well,
What I've learned more than anything, that life
you
is
know,
short.
I like a
Yeah.
king.
Yeah, I know. I think you're an amazing human being and you've always been full of positive energy. And, I'm glad that Charlie Overby, shout out to Charlie again,
Love
brought
Charlie.
us together. And, I'm proud of him
Oh gosh.
and how he's transcended and we've all grown spiritually, between the three of us in different ways.
He never gave up, and he's really been a catalyst to help a lot of people, and he still keeps being.
And he makes some damn amazing hats.
Yeah, I have a few of them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a hat guy really, so but it's
Me
not my
neither.
cup of tea. I still respect it. So props to him and props to the artistry and props to you, Gina, for just doing what you're doing and keep doing it. Don't let the man get you down. Don't let anyone get in your way. Keep spreading that love and positivity. And we got to wrap this up right now because I really got to get the door. But I can't thank you enough for being on the show.
Thank you.
And I was like really, I'm always moved by your posts, and when I do catch your highlights of what you're up to, it's just inspiring for me to see and makes me happy. So like
Thank
I probably said it 100 times in this interview, but
you.
just keep doing what you're doing. You
Thank
are proof that anyone can live the dream. And do you have any final words before we say goodbye to everybody?
No, I think we probably did that. But
Okay.
Gina, theliberatedhealer.com, if you're in the wellness space or have a suicidal story or something you want to contribute, you want to be on the show, you can email me and we can see if we have some dates for you. And if you have any ideas of how I could get a grant for the Suicidal Ideation Anonymous, if you want to help and participate in the documentary, if you're a researcher, I mean, that's how I find people. I found my directories from the Ukraine that way. He just reached out to me and said, I'm passionate about your story. Boom, I got a director. The team just comes together the way it's supposed to come. And that's what community is all about. And I like to say, yes, let's do it. And, if you show up, you show up.
On that note, that wraps up another episode of the King's Couch. And this is my lovely, beautiful, and talented guest, Gina. And I'm your host with the most, the king of all kings, R.I.P. Lemmy. Sulo King, and I will catch you another time. Thank you for tuning in
Bye,
to
everybody.
another episode of the King's Couch.
Bye.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
The King of Kings. There is only one.